tell me why I've been waiting so long for Tayshia to be the next Bachelorette, and when she finally gets it, ABC has to go and mess it up so bad. Hello everyone, and welcome back to An Honest Critique. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. I am very excited about today's video. I feel like the channel is finally earning its name with this one. If you know me, then you know that watching The Bachelor is one of my guiltiest pleasures. It is a show that I've been watching for a very long time now, and I've had a lot of thoughts about the current season. While I do think every season has its ups and downs, I do think that ABC really messed up with the current one for a number of reasons that I will get into. So without further ado, let's get into this. If you haven't watched the series before, all you really need to know is that every season ABC picks a bachelor or a bachelorette, and then they bring in a number of contestants who will be fighting for that person's love through a series of challenges and dates, and hopefully the show ends with an engagement. Do the couples get engaged every season? Usually. Do those engaged couples actually get married? Not usually. But we're here to talk about season 16 of The Bachelorette, which is dramatic for a number of reasons, most notably for 1, being shot under quarantine conditions at an isolated resort, and for 2, having the title be shared between 2 women, both of which have never happened before. Instead of critiquing the entire season, I've compiled 5 reasons why this season has been an absolute mess. There are clearly spoilers ahead. You have been warned. My first issue with Clare's season, which consists of 4 episodes, surprisingly that's not my issue with it, is the fact that she stalked her guys on social media before she even met them on night 1. More specifically, she stalked contestant Dale Moss and began to preemptively fall in love with him.
Even when we first stopped filming because of COVID and had to go into quarantine, everything was kind of stacked against me and I couldn't have contact with anybody.
Okay, so yes, quarantine sucks, but not having contact with anyone is part of the process for any bachelor or bachelorette. This isn't new. They usually go months without speaking to people before, during, and after filming to maintain the secrecy of the show. Clare goes on to say,
I would look at all the guys' social media pages just to see what kind of guys are coming on, which kind of guys I'm gonna meet, and I was excited for it. But when I would see Dale's, it just was like, he's somebody that I could see hanging out with. I like what he talks about. I like what he's interested in.
This is another issue with the social media thing, and a big reason why no other bachelors or bachelorettes have had access to their potential suitors' social media pages. If anything, ABC has surprised the new bachelors and bachelorettes with a few of their suitors on the season finales prior to starting the new season, but they only talk for a minute at most. The bachelor and bachelorette don't get to look them up and follow their lives for the next few months.
On Mother's Day, I happened to look at his social media and it was close to the anniversary that his mom passed away, and I could just relate so much and my heart was so heavy for him. My heart went out to him.
See, what bugs me about this clip is that she's learning things about him that she wouldn't have known in the normal bachelorette process. None of the other bachelors were able to do this. Based on her reaction when Dale gets out of the limo, it's instantly clear that the rest of the guys had no chance. Now, I have to stop and say, I am a romantic, so I have no problem with love at first sight, but I do have a problem with it if it only happened because she'd spent hours staring at his face on social media weeks before filming started. This isn't love at first sight anymore. It's more like an episode of Catfish where Clare falls in love with this guy over social media, then meets him in person, and as a result of the competition aspect, all the other guys that show up just get screwed over in the process. If anything, based on this, I think she signed up for the wrong show. All of this is to say, I can't help but wonder if Clare would have had the same reaction to Dale if she hadn't been stalking him for months before filming. One of the reasons that Clare was picked as the Bachelorette was because she stood up for herself and always spoke her mind. However, there's a moment when she speaks her mind this season that I just felt was so ridiculous. So in one of the episodes, Clare walks up to the men and they're all super quiet. She then sits and waits awkwardly for someone to ask her to go talk, but no one does until she basically asks them to do so.
So, should we get the night started?
I think we should.
Yeah? All right. Does anybody want to?
When someone finally asks her to go talk, she makes some comments about how sad it is that she had to ask to be taken out, and this makes the guys feel really bad and question why they didn't ask her first. Anyway, when she's talking to the guy that asked her out, he's opening up and wanting to get to know her, and she just stops him and says she has to address what's on her mind. So she gets up, leaves the poor guy, and walks back to go yell at the other guys.
I really couldn't concentrate and like focus on talking with him because I'm a little bit taken aback. I'm sitting here, I had made a toast, and then there was the longest awkward silence. And I just sat here and was embarrassed and had to like, almost like, does anybody want to spend time with me?
I'll take a moment to speak for the group. I don't think that was.
You don't need to speak for the group. You need to speak for yourself. If you guys all want to hang out with each other, you can do that, and I can go home and go to bed.
So what you're telling me is that instead of spending time with a guy who pulled you out and is talking to you about his life and wanting to get to know about yours, you're gonna cut him off and go yell at the other guys for not pulling you out and talking to you about their lives. Like, how does this make sense? You're wasting time yelling at this group of men like they're a bunch of children instead of spending time getting to know them. Like, I get it. It was embarrassing that none of them pulled you out, but when somebody did, you didn't talk to him. Because then I started thinking about it. When she left Bennett to go yell at the other guys, she left with Dale. But what happened to Bennett? Did she just leave him over there by himself? You punished the one guy brave enough to pull you out to talk. My thing is, you're questioning whether these guys are truly here for you. How do you know they're not just nervous? There's a global pandemic going on, and these guys are in rooms with men they don't know. They've given up family, friends, and are stuck in a quarantine bubble for you. I know that this season is all about Clare finding love, but this temper tantrum just seems so uncalled for. As if it wasn't bad enough that Clare came into the show with her sights solely set on Dale, the level of respect she showed for the other men because of her obsession with him was really disappointing. Out of the 4 episodes in Clare's season, I think it's safe to say that she spends most of the time with Dale. There are definitely some moments that got a little out of hand, but the one that made me just absolutely want to turn off the show was when Clare takes Dale to her room and they spend more than an hour there together, instead of like the usual 15 to 20 minutes, while the other guys are waiting to talk to her. What made me so mad was that Clare personally invites Dale to her room, a very unusual choice this early in the competition. But then when they get caught and the other guys find her, she can't get them out of her room fast enough. Then, of course, Dale tries to sneak back into her room for round 2 and gets caught. And this is so awkward. Like, I cringe watching this clip. What's worse is that she starts spending time with Dale again when some guys haven't even had a chance to see her yet. So, rightfully so, the guys chew out Dale because he comes up with some lame excuses about being lost and not thinking Clare would be in her room. Like, what were you gonna do in her room if you thought she wasn't there? Honestly, I think the lack of respect falls on both Clare and Dale. He should have had more respect for the guys who haven't spoken to her, especially after making a speech about mutual respect for one another. And Clare should have told Dale no the second time he walked in, because there were men who hadn't spoken to her at that point. So you can see why I was super happy that Jason called her out. This whole thing with Dale and the lack of respect in the house leads Chris Harrison to step in and talk to Clare. Chris Harrison basically has to come in and say stop treating the guys like trash. they don't appreciate it. This is another first for The Bachelorette.
It's hard. It's hard because on one hand, like, I completely respect the process of all this.
How do you respect the process when you have completely disregarded it before it even started? You stalk the guys on social media. Sorry, just Dale. So you basically threw that rule out the window. You only spend time with Dale, even on group dates, so that's not exactly giving every guy a fair shot. So no, you're not really respecting the Bachelorette process. She then tells Chris Harrison that she wants to spend as much time as she can with Dale, that he's her match, he's what she's looking for, and this whole thing is over because that's what she wants to do. I respect her not wanting to waste any more of the guys' time. However, instead of telling the guys all of this, she goes on a date with Dale, tells him she loves him, basically has a fantasy suite with him, wakes up next to him in the morning, and doesn't tell the other guys a single thing until after all this happens. This is what really makes me upset. Clare has already been spending so much time with Dale throughout the whole season, and then she goes and tests the waters with him while leaving the guys in the dark. Let me be clear, I don't mind that she fell for Dale. That's the whole point of the show. But have the decency to tell the other guys that they're out of the running. It's not a leap of faith if you're going to have the guys on the side waiting for you if it doesn't work out. That to me is messed up, because what she's doing is saying she's going for Dale and taking this leap of faith, but if he says, nah, I'm not feeling it, then she can just go back to the other guys and say, okay, let's do this. Like, I'm finally ready to talk to you other guys. So you can see why they're so upset when she finally does tell them what's going on. And they call her out on it, rightfully so.
At the end of our group date, she left it like, you guys are all pieces of shit. I'm not giving you a rose. She's wrapped up in whatever the going on with Dale, but this needs to be addressed because we can't do anything forward with this elephant in the room.
After all this madness, Dale surprisingly proposes to her after what I think is 2 weeks. Clare grabs that ring faster than I grab my Chipotle order, and they both run off to quarantine together happily ever after, leaving the rest of the guys stranded and confused just like they have been all season. As if Clare's season wasn't a mess on its own, we get the news that Tayshia is taking over her season. If you don't know, Tayshia Adams was a contestant on season 23 of The Bachelor and the 6th season of Bachelor in Paradise. She didn't find love on either of these shows and has been a frontrunner for The Bachelorette ever since. At first, I was ecstatic when I heard Tayshia was going to be The Bachelorette. But then when I started watching her season, I couldn't have been more disappointed with how ABC handled the transition. First off, it shouldn't have been a transition to begin with. It should have been a clean break with her getting her very own season. Clare could have had season 16 with her 4 episodes, and Tayshia could have started season 17 with her own set of episodes and her own set of men picked especially for her. When Tayshia starts her season, she gets men chosen for another woman, and a white woman at that. Here's my thing. If the casting directors go to such great lengths to get these great suitors for The Bachelor and The Bachelorette that season, how are they just going to throw the same guys they picked for Clare at Tayshia? These men were picked for a 39-year-old white woman with certain views and morals, not a 30-year-old black woman with her own unique views and morals. Even if both women's views and morals happen to line up perfectly, they both have 2 very different stories, 2 very different personalities, and are possibly looking for 2 very different kinds of men based on their own lives and where they are in their lives. The casting directors obviously announced that Clare was going to be The Bachelorette, so there are a number of men who are going to be there specifically for her. In fact, the guys on the show were specifically picked for Clare because the pandemic caused a recasting to better suit her needs and age range. In fact, they threw out a guy who was like 23 because they felt like he wasn't a good fit for Clare because of his age. To get a look behind the scenes, casting director Lacey Pemberton talked about how casting was done for Rachel Lindsay's season, who was the first Black Bachelorette. She said, "We wanted to find the best people we thought Rachel would hopefully have some chemistry with and fall in love with. That's really my goal every season. My biggest problem is that Tayshia was not given the same treatment. Yes, the guys seem great, and Chris Harrison seems to constantly try to convince us of that. But they were here for Clare, which they say on Tayshia's very first night. What I'm saying is that Tayshia should not have gotten Clare sloppy seconds. She should have gotten her own men. In fact, Clare got 31 men night 1, which she whittled down to 16. And Tayshia got 20. Not only did Tayshia get significantly less men to choose from, but only 4 were chosen specifically for her. The other 16 were Clare's. I understand that the pandemic is making things really difficult on the show, but ABC was able to pull out all the stops for Clare, so why not do the same for Tayshia, who has also been patiently waiting for this opportunity? After all that waiting, she gets a bunch of Clare's sloppy seconds in a shared season, which is obviously going to be rushed because Clare has already used 4 episodes of the usual 10 to 12 episode season. Let me just expand on this really quickly because I've watched most of Tayshia's season at this point, and the rushed process becomes a much bigger issue. Like I said before, most seasons are 10 to 12 episodes, which is about 6 to 8 weeks of filming. On Tayshia's Men Tell All episode, we find out that she was called during Clare's season while it was being filmed, and when she accepted, she was on the property in 48 hours. Tell me that's not super rushed. So with the shortened timetable for Tayshia's men, because 4 episodes were already used up on Clare, that means that she and the other men were expected to fall in love, meet her parents, ask her parents for their blessing, and then potentially propose in even less time than a usual season. How is that fair? Like, I get why the guys are freaking out that it was already hometowns because I couldn't believe we were on the hometown episode already, and I'm pretty used to the pacing of this show. The problem is, by taking over Clare's season, Tayshia had to finish within the same timetable, which really isn't fair to her or the guys. The fact that Tayshia's Men Tell All is episode 10 in this season, like it is with every other regular season, means that she was not given an extra 4 episodes worth of time to explore her relationships. She's still on Clare's timetable. In fact, ABC combined Week 10's episode with the Men Tell All. It's just not fair that Tayshia has to rush such a huge decision just because ABC wants to stay on schedule. Clare said that she felt like everything was stacked up against her. But the way I see it, Tayshia's in an even worse position because she got men who, 1, were here for another woman, 2, were screwed over by that process, and 3, were pressured to fall in love and propose in even less time than this crazy show gives normal contestants. Clare, on the other hand, got to 1, flip through a catalog of men specifically chosen for her, 2, handpick the guy she wanted with no outside pressure or time constraint, and 3, walk out with a proposal in less than 2 weeks. You tell me if that's fair. Here's the thing. I don't blame Clare for falling in love with Dale. That is the whole point of the show. Believe it or not, I am really happy for them, and I do hope that they're doing well. My issue with Clare was her saying that she respected the process, but then turned around and broke all the rules by stalking the dude she wanted on social media, and only him, and learning everything she could about him before filming even started. That doesn't tell me that you respect the process. Neither does disrespecting all the other guys in the house by wasting their time when she clearly had already made her choice. If you say you're going to shoot your shot with Dale, then do it. But have the decency to tell the guys. Don't let them wait up for you while you spend the night with him. In conclusion, Tayshia deserved so much better. It killed me to watch her struggle this season with such a rushed timetable and her say that she wished she had more time. I worry that ABC putting her in as quickly as they did was solely because of the growing recognition of the Black Lives Matter movement. And it seems like that might be the case because the next Bachelor, Matt James, who will be the very first Black Bachelor, was cast before Tayshia's season was even over. Entertainment Tonight stated that Matt was chosen after days of calls from fans and former Bachelor Rachel Lindsay for the franchise to diversify amid the Black Lives Matter movement. As a person of color myself, I'm a huge advocate for diversifying The Bachelor because it has been a very white show for a very long time. My only complaint is that ABC's hasty attempt to look good to the rest of the world at a time when they were being called out for their lack of diversity meant that Tayshia wasn't given the same treatment as her white predecessor. I just hope that Matt's season will be handled much better than Tayshia's. All in all, I truly hope that Tayshia finds love this season because she really deserves it. But if she doesn't, ABC needs to know that it's because they didn't put in the same time and effort for Tayshia that they did with Clare. And that's evident by the recycled guys and sped up process. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. I know I had a lot of fun making it. Please be sure to like the video if you liked it. Comment below what you think about all the drama this season and who Tayshia is going to pick out of those final 3 men. And please subscribe to join the channel. I love watching it grow every day, and that's all because of viewers like you. So thank you again, and I will see you in the next one.